Bureaucracy is always a pain in the ass. Greetings and welcome once again to Roman of the Empire. I am your host, Roman. Today we are going to be talking about Star Wars Andor Episode 4, Aldhani. I gotta say, I'm liking the direction of the show. I was a bit worried about the pacing of the first 3 episodes, and while the pace hasn't launched off at jet speed here, it has evened out, I think. So you kind of get the vibe of the show with the things that are building and the schemes and all the things that are happening. So I'm happy with that. Funny thing about the Andor show, before we get into our summary, I like the worlds they're building. I like the cast of characters you've met. The feel of the show is interesting because it doesn't feel like a Star Wars show. I can say that straight up. You know this is the Star Wars universe, but the vibe of it, much like Rogue One, had a completely different vibe than the other Star Wars films. So this is, in that vein. Of course, it's the same creators, but it is interesting watching that. Andor himself, Diego Luna, he's one of the least interesting characters in the show, which I think is a little bit weird, but that's okay. If we want to see this rise of the rebellion, using him as kind of a carrier, and then you're seeing the world around that, that's fine, because that's kind of what we're getting. So, we'll dive in here. The first 3 episodes basically talk about how Andor had to kill a couple of contracted security guys. That causes a kerfuffle. He's got some magic Imperial box from an aircraft that will give them access to a lot of the Imperial network stuff, and he's going to sell that to a buyer. Things go terribly wrong. The private security contractors really botch the job. A lot of them end up getting killed. We meet Luthen Rael, that's played by the always brilliant Stellan Skarsgård. He's more than just a buyer. He's trying to recruit Andor into the rebellion. And we get a lot of background stuff on it. It was okay. They were fine. But we jump into this episode directly following. Luna and Andor have escaped the planets. They're in hyperspace on their way to a planet called Aldhani. And Luthen is trying to convince Cassian to join the rebel cause. And Cassian's really more about just survival at this point. And he's not seeing this picture. He's just seeing his little bit. I want to stay alive. I will do whatever I need to do to stay alive. And Luthen basically convinces him, he's like, bro, you're going to end up dying anyway in this whole thing. Why not have you fight for the bigger cause? And if you die, you die, but at least it'll be something that matters. And he pretty much just talks him into it. Of course, for a payday. That's the carrot, I guess we'll say. And the scheme is they are supposed to be knocking over the payroll for the Imperial sector, and one would assume this is to help fund the rebellion efforts. But Cassian's getting a pretty good payday out of it as well, so it's a win-win here. So we juxtapose this with a lot of scenes on Coruscant, which I was really happy to see again. It's now the galactic capital where Palpatine and everybody, that's where they all work. So a lot of the episode takes place here, and I was really happy to see that. And what we do see more of is the Imperial Security Bureau. the ISB. And we were introduced to them in Rogue One. If you'll remember, Krennic. Krennic was the gentleman in the white cloak. So he was different, that was something we hadn't seen before. At least I don't remember seeing it before. And he was part of the ISB. He was in the Advanced Weapons Research Division. Remember, he was Death Star guy. But he was also in charge of, making sure that information wasn't getting out and all the other stuff. So ISB. These are cool looking uniforms. I can't deny that. So we come in. There's a big meeting of the ISB, and this is where we get to meet a couple different folks. Supervisor Deborah Miro. So she hears about the mess on whatever the hell planet they were on Ferrix, where Andor killed the guys and the magic box and this whole disaster. And we get to meet her boss, Major Partagaz, and he is played by Anton Lesser, who you might remember was one of the maesters on Game of Thrones. That's why I was like, geez, I know this guy. Good actor. And I have to say, the supporting cast on this show is really good. You get a vibe off of all these characters that is pretty fun. And it's got a really different feel to it, but I do like it. And so he's more interested in maintaining bureaucracy because that's what his job is. And she wants to investigate the box. She thinks she's seeing a pattern of crimes, motives. She thinks there is a rebellion building. And he's like, you know what? Just sit back until you have some empirical evidence that you can present and not just your gut feeling. But he's still pretty cool. And she's facing off against a same rank dude, different division. He runs more than her. She's got 2. He has 6 divisions that they're running. And there's different sectors of things that they are managing. But he has this case. She wants this case because the box, she feels, falls under her purview as whatever her sector is. And what we do get to see is a very satisfying firing of the the contractors who screwed this all away, as the Imperials decide, we're just going to do this ourselves because you're clearly not competent enough to do this job on a simple outpost planet. And I really enjoyed the firing. It was just heartwarming in my own sad, dark way. So, and it's also kind of fun to see the infighting between the divisions. This isn't unlike any other organization. Everybody's, the crab's in a bucket. Everybody's fighting for their little bit. And was really fun to watch. So we also get to meet, again, Mon Mothma. So this is, I suppose, the first time, technically, we will have met her in the timeline. And you'll remember her from Star Wars and Return of the Jedi. Many Bothans died to bring us this information. And she's played by Genevieve O'Reilly, and she's lovely, by the way. And she also played this character in Revenge of the Sith, although you got to see her for that much of it, and Rogue One. So you've seen this actress portray Mon Mothma before. So she's doing her bit. She is in charge of the Rebel Alliance. But on Coruscant, remember, this is the beginning. So we see this almost the rebel underground, the tension, the paranoia, all the things that you would have seen in Germany, France, that type of stuff. And it's well done. I like the show, and it's alarming for me to say these words about a Star Wars show on Disney Plus. I'm sure maybe they won't do something that's going to make me hate it, but right now I'm very pleased with it. So Luthen, Stellan Skarsgård, is returning to Coruscant, and he's getting dressed up. He's putting on a disguise, and you can see him acting out his part on his spaceship, just getting into the role. He's going to be portraying someone else. And he is the proprietor of a fancy gift shop of antiquities on Coruscant. And he's arranged a meeting with Mon Mothma to sell her something for her husband's birthday, essentially. Pretty good cover. Now, Mon has a new driver. They don't trust anybody. So they put on a big display about what he's going to buy. And he has to show her something in the back because he has something that might be more to her taste back there. So they go back there and they talk about how she's surrounded by spies. She goes places and everybody's a new face. She can't trust anybody. And he's on her about, hey, we need more money. We need more money. And she's like, well, where's it going to come from? I'm being watched constantly. But she wants to bring someone else in to their inner circle. And he's like, ooh, I am very leery about this. And as we go out, his line is, it's a daring choice, but I trust you'll have the courage to turn back. That should be a bit much. Talking about the item, but putting on the play for her driver. So it's the subtext is there, and it's for us who know what's going on. It's very thinly veiled. So now we go to Mon's apartment, and it's an interesting scene. This little Game of Thronesy stuff as well. We meet her husband Perrin, he's not a very likable character. He's not mean. He's just very caught up in the whole lifestyle. So he's planning this big dinner with army buddies and some important Imperial guests. Let's see, Ars Dangor, who's one of Palpatine's advisors, Sly Moore, who's one of Palpatine's aides. And she's like, these are all my enemies. They just cut off shipping to this planet. They're all going to starve there. And I'm supposed to, maybe we'll laugh about that at dinner. And he's like, no, you're going to be at the other end of the table. These people are fun. So you see where this is. So I suppose it's a good cover for her having such a flaky husband, but it's also the meal, which we didn't get to see, I imagine is going to be coming in the next episode, should be also pretty Games of Thrones like. I would just in the tension and the verbal sparring that I think we'll get to see. So it's something to look forward to. Now, on Aldhani, the planets where Luthen took Cassian to be part of this scheme to steal the payroll, we start meeting the folks there. The first and most important, which is Vel, and she's the leader of the team. She didn't know that Cassian was going to be coming. Luthen just kind of threw him into the mix because he's like, I was going to cancel the mission, but with him on it, your chances of success are much better. So we're going to bring him in, or I'm going to cancel the mission. You can tell them it was your idea. It was, I was there from the beginning, so that they don't freak out. And there's a pretty tense exchange between the two. What I didn't fully understand. She walked a really long way to get to the meeting zone with Luthen, and it's like an all-day kind of walk. And I'm like, this was the best way in a technically advanced society. I suppose if you don't want to draw Imperial attention, walking by foot is the best way, but it's just like, damn, that's a lot. And you do see a TIE fighter patrol go over while they're walking back to their very Spartan camp. And at the camp, we get to meet the rest of the team. The actors are fine. I don't say they're nondescript, but they're kind of generic type roles. The caregiver, the naive believer, the fighter. This whole group, the cynics, and her, and they have an Imperial officer from the garrison who is their inside man, Lieutenant Gorn. And so they put together this very ambitious plan based around a cosmic event that causes the sky to basically erupt. And that's their getaway scheme, because Cassian's like, it's this far away. The TIE fighters are going to be on you here. How do you expect this to succeed? And they explain to him there's this amazing event that on the ground is beautiful, in the sky is chaos. So it effectively neutralizes the TIE fighter. So, it's an interesting scheme. It's well put together. It's risky because, one thing goes wrong, it all goes to hell. And it's a poorly manned garrison. There's only like 14 or so guys there, if I heard it correctly, but it's a 7-man team. So, assume the Imperials are better armed, but someone's on the inside. So there's just a lot of things. And Cassian has, of course, a lot of catching up to do. He needs to memorize the map, memorize the phrases of the Andali people, and just all of this in a 3-day period before the mission. So that's kind of all the nutshell stuff. It was a fun episode. I really enjoyed it. And like I said, I like the tension that's building. I wish Andor himself were a more interesting character. But like I said, if we're just seeing the worlds around him and the rebellion building around him, and he's just our point to focus on while all this is going on, that's okay. I can live with that. If you haven't watched the show, again, I don't know why you're watching this, but I do recommend this show. It starts off slow, and again, the pace doesn't get crazy fast, but you get the vibe of the paranoia, the scheming, the tension, the rebellion that is building. So that's it for now. This has been Roman of the Empire. Please like and subscribe, as it does help our fledgling channel. Signing off. Be kind.